Today's NDE afterlife experience is from Emma. Emma talks about her near-death experience when she crossed over to the other side. Welcome to Near-Death Tales. If this is your first time checking this channel out, I'm glad to have you here. My name is Joseph, and I will be narrating the near-death experiences of those who have died and have seen the other side. Today's experience comes from Emma. Here it is. Hi, my name is Emma. In 1994, I was a senior in college, and I was on my way to run the Austin 10K, which is a big race that held symbolic meaning for me. My life had fallen apart in college. I had gotten involved in drinking too much and partying too much. It came to my awareness that I needed to get my life together, and running was the way I decided to get back on track and really focus my life on running into a brighter future. So, it was really kind of a shock in some ways to have this head-on collision. On my way to run this race, which was supposed to change my life, for the better in a way, there I was in this broken vehicle and in this broken body. I was so physically harmed that I couldn't reach my glove box, so I knew something was wrong with my spine. I realized that I literally didn't have the strength in my core to move myself up to get my driver's license from the glove box. In that moment, I just realized this situation was out of my hands. This is the first time where I have no control because I've been kind of a driven person, like getting into a good college, getting good grades, and getting over the past, even though I battled some demons, like emotional demons and not knowing how to heal. I was still in overdrive, just that type of person. So when I realized that control was taken from me, I was agnostic, like what am I going to call on in this moment? I asked myself, am I going to make it out? Am I going to walk? Am I going to advocate for myself once I get to the hospital? What's going to happen? But there was this part of me that gave a foxhole prayer of, hey, if there is a God out there, I need help in this moment. This is pretty serious. And it was serious. There was a 17-hour wait at the ER, and that was because my spine was broken in 3 places. The vertebrae were pressing on the spine, and I was losing feeling in my leg. They needed an expert surgeon to work on this, but there wasn't one available immediately. I overheard a nurse saying that. He wasn't coming in because I didn't have health insurance, and here was this working-class kid doing my best to make it to the next level. I thought, oh, I could die here on this board, and no one's going to help me. I was trying so hard within the system, and it just hit me. I was so angry in that moment. I can't even tell you the amount of anger that I felt. When I finally met the surgeon who was going to work on me, I think the relief was just overwhelming. At least that next step was happening, and I could just figure out life from that point. But there was a lot of fear about walking, There was a lot of fear about what life would be like after this moment. It was purely physical. Nothing spiritual came to me until I went under. So when they finally wheeled me into surgery, I must have been in surgery for quite some time. The first thing that I noticed was that I popped out of my physical form and felt no worry and had no pain. I didn't think this was odd. Immediately, I was certain that the real me was that spirit form. I knew that from the moment. I left my body, and the body was really just this vehicle that I had been in. I was like, how could I possibly have thought, that the body was everything and that the mind was everything? It really just struck me. But I was also in that mystery or in that awe of, wow, this is a new way of being. I'm outside of my form. I looked down at the surgeons operating on me, and then I saw these large beings and I've struggled. I called them angels, but at the time I had no idea they were aliens, just these light beings. All I knew was that they were incredibly intelligent, and that they had this sense of energy that immediately calmed down anything I might have felt in that separation from my body. I was given waves of peace, waves of healing, and waves of light that allowed me to adjust in that moment and to go, okay, this is what's happening. Thank you for the help. They sent that help. Through the back of my surgeons and into my spine, I saw that this light could communicate. I couldn't believe it at the time, but I certainly believed that, these angelic beings, these beings of higher intelligence, were assisting with goodwill and light. Maybe the surgeons knew. Maybe they didn't, but I saw that the body was going to be fine. In that moment, the monitor flatlined. I realized that technically the body was dead, and so I was in the corridor, and I saw my stepdad get a candy bar, which I thought was funny because he was one of those health nuts who always bragged and pointed out, You're drinking a Coke. That's bad for you. You're eating that sugar. It's not good for your body. I was like, ha ha ha, he's eating a candy bar. How funny. But I had this goodwill towards him and everyone. At that point, by the time I'd left my body, there was nothing left to harm, just love at our core. At least that's what I was beginning to feel. Then I went out into the night sky and really just felt this love for everyone I've ever met or interacted with, even these small instances, and there was just this sense of, hey, this whole journey we take too seriously. We're in our physical form, and outside of the body it's really not that serious, it's just love. And so I began to feel that at deeper levels, and kind of transitioned into what I call a night sky that became more like the cosmos. As I got into that space, I felt an intelligence, greater than those angels, perhaps God, perhaps the Creator's divine intelligence, beginning to come towards me and say very simple things. Like, love is all that we take with us. Be like a little child, remind them to go to nature. You know, they were just these simple truths that I thought, maybe I need a little more than this. It was like, this seems a little too simple at the time. But I was like, but these are truths and I understand this to be true. Then the energy was communicated on a different level. It will all make sense later. Just accept it. Accept this change. And then I transitioned into a realm where I saw my grandfather first. I didn't recognize him because he had this youthfulness. I had seen him die when I was 10, and I was, the last person with whom he made contact. I felt this deep emotional connection to him, but at 10, I was already kind of distrusting religion and distrusting adults, looking for science as my answer to things, if that makes sense. Like, what happens to the body? So, I remember touching my grandfather and thinking, okay, but that's not him. The only thing that was him was this desire to connect with me, to love me. But in that place, I was like, oh, he never died. He became his true, beautiful self. I connected with that death, and so in that state, I just relaxed even more because I was like, it would be fine if I had to stay there with him. I knew, that would be enough. It would be fun. It would be beautiful. A lot of people question this part of my near-death experience, but to me it makes perfect sense, because one of his messages was, all that dies can be made new in this heavenly realm. So he had given, when he died, this old, beautiful forged Chevy truck, an antique. I always loved that truck and cherished those memories. So he said, well, let's drive through this realm in that truck. I decided I wanted to be a child since that's when I knew him. And I also decided that in that moment with him, I would just be happy and at peace. But I was shocked at the next thing that happened because he started driving, and I was looking at how green the grass was. Nothing was dead. Everything was alive with beauty and life. In this place, I just knew nothing could die. He looked at me while driving the truck, and I was sitting in the back, my feet going through the grass. He looked back and said, do you want to continue onward? I knew that didn't mean to keep driving with him. I knew that meant to go to God. And without a second thought, I was like, yes. I love you, Grandpa. But if God is there, I need to see what this is all about. And on that flight, for lack of a better term, it was more like I was a magnet going towards Source. Everything that had ever plagued me in life seemed to be falling away. So, at 21, of course, I was an admitted insecure, bullied teenager. I had all these worries and wounds that so many people do. I mean, I couldn't even put a number on it, but there are lots of dysfunctional families, with varying levels of dysfunction. Every child might feel like their needs or desires on some level aren't seen or understood. But in this light, I felt seen and understood and loved exactly the way I was. Instead of feeling special, I realized, oh, everybody is loved like this, it's not just me. I didn't realize how not okay I had felt, for so many years, and how probably so many people suffer from just not feeling that complete engulfment of unconditional love. As I felt people's prayers trying to pull me back to my earthly life, I just saw them as incomplete in comparison to that love. And so, as I started feeling more and more of that wanting to get closer and closer to that love, I was stopped at some point and told, you're going to return to your body. This is what's going to happen. You're going to teach and you're going to spread light. When I heard that, deep within my soul, I knew I was going back. I actually argued a little bit with this idea, even though I saw a vision of what it looked like. There were all these souls along this river, and some of them had shadows, which I knew was fear. Some of them were in the light. And it was as if God was saying, you're going to remind the ones that are in fear, that they can open to this love, that they can open to this light, and that it can really just make their existence here so much better. So after I left the hospital, after, many days in the hospital, I stayed at my mom and stepdad's house. As I was beginning to recover, my mom, was fixing healthy meals for me. I was in a lot of pain and I was having out-of-body experiences. But as things normalized and I talked more with her, I said, "Hey Mom, did my stepdad get a candy bar when I was in the ER? How long did you guys wait? How long was my surgery?" She said, "Yeah, in fact, your dad and I, my father, they were divorced. They were both on their knees praying because they felt like I had died." She said that my stepdad walked in with a candy bar, made a joke and said, "Well, the mood in here is really serious. Anyone want some of this Snickers bar?" So he split his secret Snickers bar. They got off their knees and, they continued to wait for me to come out of surgery. I was like, "Mom, that was the moment I was dead." That was when you felt it as a parent. You felt that break. We all have psychic abilities, We all have a connection. Or if you don't want to call it psychic abilities, we are all deeply tied to the people that we love. I was like, you felt the moment I died. But, many years later, after teaching and really just kind of following that, calling and trying to bring the light into students' lives, I started telling the story more publicly. A researcher in my area, Dr. Jen Holden, who is really kind of well known for her study of these experiences, loved that verifiable moment. I never really thought that I'd tell the story to anyone other than my students or people who were interested. I didn't think it would be this public part. But as many years and decades have gone by, it is a part of the mission, because it is a form of teaching to simply talk about how to use unconditional love as a way to make your life better, as a way to heal wounds, and as a way to be better in the community and safer in this world. It continues to have a powerful message.